Safar. Alhamdulillahi wahdahu. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasul wa ala Alhamdulillahi wahdahu. Wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dahu wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawm ad-din. وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue 7:17 p.m. Wednesday, October the 6th, 2021, which agrees on the Hijri calendar of the 28th of Safar. On this night, technically, of Thursday. Technically, it's Thursday night. 28th of Safar, the year 1443, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So we will continue in Hamawiyyah by the great Imam as we stopped at the affair speaking about how the deviant sects, or those who are upon deviation from the Muslims, of those who utilizes their intellects and give precedence to that over the revelation of Allah Ta'ala. Salim, do you know how to fix these headphones? Do you know how to fix them and turn it on? We tried to do it for like 5-10 minutes straight. Those who give precedence to their intellects over, who give precedence to their that they give precedence to their intellects over the revelation. You'll find that this baliyah, or this atrocity, is not only just used for those sects from the Muslims who deviated in the proper creed. You'll find that any Muslim who puts forth any type of guidance, whether it be of democracy or any type of way of life, whether it be democracy, whether it be liberalism, whether it be Masism or being a Mason, all those are a form of guidance, but they're a form of misguidance that the people took as a source of guidance. All of those is also applicable to what Shaykh al-Islam has mentioned here. However, the atrocity that they used was to give precedence to their intellects and to magnify intelligence over the revelation of Allah Ta'ala. That's why if you look in your books, everyone, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam had challenged them. If you could look in Hamawiyyah, what he says, listen to what he mentions. He says, ما كان مذكورا في الكتاب والسنة مما يخالف قياسكم هذا أو يثبت ما لم تدركه عقولكم على طريقة أكثرهم فاعلموا أني أمتحنكم بتنزيله لا لتأخذوا الهدى منه ولكن لتجتهدوا في تخريجه على شواذ اللغة ووحشي الألفاظ وغرائب الكلام وأن تسكتوا عنه مفوضين علمه إلى الله مع نفي دلالته على شيء من الصفات. هذا حقيقة الأمر على رأي هؤلاء المتكلمين. You'll find, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, that he goes on to mention, he said, even though you yourselves are differing more than the people on the face of the earth, due to the disturbance in the foundation of the religion, which cause you to bicker amongst yourselves and to cause disunity amongst yourselves. He said, for verily, what is mentioned in the book of Allah and in the Sunnah of the Message of Allah, or what opposes the analogy of this, or the analogy of yours, he said, to the point where you utilize the mind in order to establish, or what is established by Allah and His Messenger, or what your minds are not able to comprehend, that you reject it. He said that this is the method of the majority of you. So the majority, or the method that Shaykh al-Islam is saying, if you look in your books, or if you look in the Twitter account that I said to look at the translation, if you look in your phones, if you look and it mentions, it says, of what your minds are not able to comprehend. If Allah has established it in this book, you reject it. He said, for verily upon this so-called methodology of yours, he said, know for sure, anni amtahinukum. Know for sure I'm challenging you and I'm testing you to bring it forth, not to take guidance from it. However, for you to work diligent, fi takhrijihi ala shawad al-lugha. For you to work diligent and hard, that when you bring it forth and you extract affairs that are not utilized even in the Arabic language. He said, rather you'll find it's from those odd affairs, very extremely strange. Wahshi al-alfaz, utilization of words or content or contextual sentences that is not even used. It's wahshi. I mean, it's not even used with some type of savage way, which I'm going to explain in a minute. This is where we stopped at last class. Where he said, وَغَرَائِبِ الْكَلَامِ, extremely weird speech. If everyone, if they look to the recording the class that I taught from last week, and if you reviewed it, you will know exactly what I'm speaking about. These type of classes, brothers and sisters, you have to review. If you don't review, you're lost. You have to review. So I constantly tell the brothers, these are not from those classes like a lecture you can sit and leave. No. You have to go back to the actual text and you have to read it. And once you read it, you'll find the benefit truly. What Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is mentioning here in this type of text. For example, if you notice what Shaykh al-Islam said, I'm challenging you and I'm testing you to show the results of your belief, what it brings of confusion. And you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam established this in a very clear way. He said, know that affair that if you was to now look to what you're saying, work diligently in bringing it about and extracting it, you'll find that it's applicable to very odd and strange speech, things that are not even used, and in the manner it's used. For example, we talked about last class that the Asha'ira do not affirm the characteristic of asabi'. We said that the book of Hamawiyyah revolves around the affair pertaining to what, everyone? As-sifat al-khabariyah. The majority of the matters that Shaykh al-Islam is discussing in this book is talking about as-sifat al-khabariyah. What is as-sifat al-khabariyah? It is those characteristics that we affirm for Allah that we will have no knowledge of knowing except that Allah revealed it to us. So the majority of this book revolves around that topic. Anything that opposes that affair, Shaykh al-Islam is rebuttaling it and rejecting it. For example, the affair pertaining to Asha'ira from their beliefs. They do not affirm hands of Allah, or the hand of Allah, or the two hands of Allah, or the fingers at all. Rather, you'll find that they twist the meaning. As I said this last class, I'm not going to mention this because I want to move on to something new. For example, we mentioned it said that the Asha'ira believe that the fingers of Allah is, now compare this to so-called Arabic language. Something extremely strange what I'm about to say. And this is what Shaykh al-Islam said. He said the affair of asabi', fingers. We know in the Kitab and the Sunnah, Allah Ta'ala has established that He has those two hands. And it's also in the authentic Sunnah. You'll find also that's been established in the authentic Sunnahs that the Messenger of Allah said that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has asabi', He has fingers. For example, those ahadith where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it said, إِنَّ الْقُلُوبَ بَيْنَ أُصْبُعَيْنِ مِنْ أَصَابِعِ الرَّحْمَنِ يُقَلِّبُهَا كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. The ahadith of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, where he said that the hearts of the servants are between the two fingers, from the fingers of Ar-Rahman, He flips it how He wills. You'll find the ahadith where we mentioned about the Yahudi or the Jew who came to the Messenger of Allah. And he said, verily we find in our scriptures, as I said the narration, جاء حبر من الأحبار إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا محمد إنا نجد that أن الله يجعل السماوات على إصبع والأرضين على إصبع على إصبع والشجر على إصبع والماء والثرى على إصبع وسائل الخلائق على إصبع فيقول أنا الملك فضحك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى بدت نواجذه تصديقا لقول الحبر ثم قرأ رسول الله الآية في سورة Zumar. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that scholar from the scholar of the Jews came to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. He said, verily we find, or most definitely find in our scriptures, that Allah will make the heavens upon a finger, and the 7 earths upon a finger, and the trees upon a finger, and water, and the moist dirt or soil upon a finger, and the rest of the creation upon a finger. And the Messenger of Allah said, and that Allah on the day of resurrection will say, I am the king. So the Messenger of Allah laughed until his molar teeth appeared, confirming the statement of that Jewish scholar. Then the Messenger of Allah read that ayah, which is in Surah Al-Zumar. وَمَا قَدَرَ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدَرِهِ وَالْأَرْضُ جَمِيعًا قَبْضَتُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتُ مَطْوِيَّاتٌ بِيَمِينِهِ Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. That they did not glorify Allah as He deserves to be glorified. And the earth, all of it, will be in His grip on the day of resurrection, and the heavens will be folded up in His right hand. Glory be and high above what they ascribe to Him as partners. The Asha'ira come in and say, that hand or that hand. That hand that we affirm for Allah. Because we know that it's truly a hand that befits Allah and it does not resemble the hand of the creation. Due to the fact you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established in the book of Allah and also the authentic sunnah that this is nothing except a yad haqiqiyah. It's a true hand. How? Due to the fact that it comes in narrations where it says that the hand that He grips, there will be a grip, and that Allah flips it. And that Allah Ta'ala takes with it. There's narrations that comes in the Sahihain that Allah takes the sadaqah and He makes it grow with His right hand. And also there will be people on the right of Allah Ta'ala of His right hand on the day of resurrection, where it says in the Sahih, where the Messenger of Allah said, إِنَّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ عَلَى مَنَابِرٍ مِّن نُورٍ عَلَى يَمِينِ الرَّحْمَنِ وَكِلْتَ يَدَيْهِ يَمِينٍ. He says, إِنَّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ عَلَى مَنَابِرٍ مِّن نُورٍ يوم القيامة على يمين الرحمن وكلتا يديه يمين. We said that those who are just on the day of resurrection will be upon manabir of light. They'll be on minbars upon light, upon the right hand of Allah, and both of His right hands are right hands. All these affairs to show that they are what? True hands. In addition to that Allah Ta'ala also has fingers. The fingers in which Allah has established for Himself, which also will be just read in the authentic narration which comes in the Bukhari. The Asha'ira come in and say, no, we don't believe that. We don't believe in fingers. Rather, fingers mean, now listen to this. Listen to the odd linguistic way they use. Listen to that odd speech. Listen to this. Fingers means a creation Allah will create, and Allah will make that creation carry what fingers carry, which is extremely strange. This is what we mentioned last class. He says, for verily if you was to go to any قاموس من قواميس اللغة العربية لا تجد هذا المعنى إطلاقا. If you was to return back to any dictionary from the dictionary of the Arabic language, you will never find that the meaning of something means that is something that Allah will create, and that thing will carry it for Allah. Absolute nonsense. So that's why with Shaykh al-Islam, if you read, if you open your books, if you go on Twitter, and you open up the page, like I just said, if you open it up and look at the translation, he said, what you're doing, if we apply it, it returns back to something extremely odd in the Arabic language. Meanings that are not there at all. He said, oh, wahshi al-alfaz. He said, or it's extremely strange, even in the aspect of linguistics. For example, if I said to you, oh, I'm coming to you today, I'm going to meet you somewhere, or I'm moving forward, walking towards you, and then I walk backwards. And then I said to you, was incumbent upon you to understand. Yahi, if you're walking forward towards me, it means you're walking forward. No, that's not what I intended. I intended something else. That's what Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning here. This is the type of rules, and these are the type of principles you're bringing. Affairs that's just, if you was to apply to everyday speech, it would just be absolute chaos. No, that's not what I intended. I'm coming towards you. No. What I intended was going backwards when I said I was coming towards you. No. When I said I was going upstairs, what I intended meaning I was going downstairs. That's what I intended. Akhi, that's the reason why Shaykh al-Islam is mentioned in here. That's why he said, if you look to your book again, what does it say? Can somebody read it for me?
Then know that I challenge you to bring it forth.
You have your book, you're on your Twitter? You have a phone? I know you got the phone with you.
I got a phone, I got Twitter.
Oh, okay. Follow.
Don't take guidance from it, rather strive hard to understand it from the strange aspects of the language.
The strange aspects of the language.
And from...
Not very strange. You understand? Now you understand what Shaykh al-Islam is saying here. Follow.
And uncanny terms and bizarre speech. Uncanny
terms and bizarre speech. If I told you I'm going upstairs and I came to you and I went downstairs, you would say, why you just told me he's going upstairs? No. What I intended was I'm going downstairs. Can you imagine if we did this and applied this in our everyday speech, how chaotic life would be? This is what these people of deviation are doing. This is what they're trying to bring about. Chaos. Chaos and what? Chaos and affairs that's supposed to be harmonized. Systematic, clear cut, and the people understand. Allah Ta'ala mentioned that He has two hands and that He has the fingers. We affirm it. It does not resemble the fingers of the hands of creation. That's it. We don't say, no. That's not what Allah intended. Allah intended something else. This was intended this. It causes chaos, confusion. So this is what He's mentioned in here. Keep the photo, I'm sorry.
And if you are silent concerning it, displaying lack of understanding, then entrust this knowledge to Allah while negating all evidence that would allude to it. So
what I mentioned last class was what, everyone? That's the first method they use, number one. So that's what you put. Number one method is what? What do? They use odd aspects from the Arabic language. Said, what did he mention? Number one, he says shawad al-lugha, wahshi al-alfaz, so that's the number one method. He said you'll find if we was to take their speech and make it applicable to the aspect of the Arabic language, you'll find that the majority of the deviant sects for the Muslims, from the Asha'ira, from the Ahbash, even back then during the time of the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila, you'll always find they used to brag up and boast about how knowledgeable we are of the Arabic language. To the point even today they use the exact same thing. Oh, you guys don't understand the Arabic language. And they brag and boast of how so-called knowledgeable they are of the Arabic language. So now Shaykh al-Islam said, let's apply it to the Arabic language. So you said, no, it doesn't mean fingers. No, it means something Allah created. That thing Allah will make a carry for Allah. Where in the Arabic language you find that? Nowhere. He said, and wahshi al-alfaz. And those terms or those wordings that are used, that's very uncanny, meaning it's also not used. Nobody understands it. Nobody says a word and they intend the opposite of it. Or they tell you, for example, what I mean when I say face. No. What I intend is something else. Or when I tell you I'm coming to you or to meet you at a certain place, that means I'm going to another place. That's what I'm intended. All these affairs are chaotic. All these affairs are what? Extremely odd. And if someone did that to you, you'd be like, Akhi, what are you, a weirdo? You go upstairs and all you intended was downstairs. What are you, a weirdo? This is what Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning here. He says extremely strange speech. So keep on. So that's the first method they use. The number two that you write. Number two. Second method. Go ahead, read it.
And if you are silent concerning it, meaning displaying lack of understanding, then entrust his knowledge to Allah while negating all evidence that will allude to the attribute.
We already mentioned this in last class a couple of months ago, maybe 4 months ago. He said the first method is that they use extremely odd, weird speech. That's number one. Number two method is that he says that they utilize is they make tafweed. Tafweed means they entrust the meanings to Allah. We mentioned this a couple of months ago. We said tafweed breaks down to two categories. We have the tafweed, the entrustment of Ahlul Sunnah. What is the entrustment of Ahlul Sunnah, everyone? We affirm the name, the attribute, the meaning. The only thing we entrust to Allah is what, everyone? The kayfiyah. How it is to Allah Ta'ala. That's the first method we mentioned. That's the tafweed of Ahlul Sunnah. The tafweed of Ahlul Bid'ah is what, everyone? They entrust everything to Allah. Depending on what group they are from the different deviant sects, they might entrust all of it. The name, the attribute, everything. If it's the Asha'ira, they'll play around. They'll say certain ones, the names, the attributes we do affirm. However, listen to what he says here. What he say in the paragraph. However, they entrust what to Allah, everyone? What's extremely strange? What is it?
The knowledge of it.
The meaning of it. The meaning. What he meant there is the meaning. They entrust the meaning. Shaykh al-Islam also makes them look very, very what? Bad here. He makes them look extremely strange. As anyone, and we're going to give examples. When someone from the Muslims, they get up and they want to worship Allah, and they want to increase their iman, and they want to read ayat to the book of Allah. Right now, a Muslim reads the ayat. Read Surah Al-Fajr. وَجَاءَ رَبُّكَ وَالْمَلَكُ صَفًّا صَفًّا وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمَ. To the end of the ayat, right everyone? When Allah Ta'ala says that your Lord will come on the day of resurrection, and the angels ranks upon ranks. Based upon the Asha'ira, when you hear your Lord comes, right? This is to let you know how stupid it is, right? Their principles. This is to let you know. This is what Shaykh al-Islam is saying here. He's saying, when you read that ayah, you're reading it, but the word he will come on the day of resurrection has no meaning to it. That meaning entrusted to Allah. So it's in the back of your mind, it has a meaning, but openly displays something else as if you're ignorant of it. Entrusted to Allah. Does anyone, when they hear Allah will come on the day of resurrection, they don't understand and comprehend the meaning of it? Do they say, no, it's meaningless, entrusted to Allah? Is it understand where I'm coming from? A lot of people that are studying this, they say that's absolutely stupid. It is stupid. Any person, when they read the ayat of a book of Allah, they want to increase their iman, they want to draw close to Allah, they want to read the Quran. They read the Quran because they know it has a what? Meaning to it. And they know that those characteristics that Allah has affirmed for himself, that him coming on the day of resurrection, or him ascending above the heaven, he created the heavens and the earth, and everything was between it within 6 days, then he ascended above the arsh. Except that when you read those ayats, increases your iman, because you know it has a meaning to it. Shaykh Muhammad Aman al-Jamidi, he mentioned this, what everyone? He said, this is what you call tajahul. he said tajahul arif. He said, person is acting as he's ignorant, even though he knows it has a meaning to it. Meaning, when I read the ayat, Allah will come on the day of resurrection. Allah, or in the authentic sunnah, the message of Allah from the hadith, not only this hadith, everyone, this hadith has reached the level of tawatur upon their principles. That Allah descends every night. At the last part of the night, the hadith is mutawatir. ينزل ربنا تبارك وتعالى كل ليلة في ثلث اليوم الآخر فيقول هل من داع أو هل من سائل فيسألني وهل من داع فيدعوني فأستجيب له فهل من مستغفر فأغفر له وهل من سائل فأعطيه. Every night when the Messenger of Allah said that every night in the third part of the night Allah descends to the lower heaven, that Allah descends to the lower heaven, and Allah says every night, is there from anyone that invoked me so I can answer his invocation? Is there anyone that's going to what? Seek my forgiveness and I will forgive him. Is there anyone that asks me and I will give him? Anybody that understands the hadith, when they read it, they know it has a meaning. That's the reason why at the third part of the night you want to take advantage of that virtue, because you know that the meaning of it is that your Lord descends at that part of the night. Based upon the principles of the Asha'ira, they say, no. That's not what that means. It has no meaning to it. Even though in the back of your mind it does, but outwardly display as if it has no meaning. Meaning saying that Allah descends, entrust it to Allah. Entrust the meaning to Allah. So it's as if you know, but outwardly you're displaying as if you don't. Anyone that hears this knows that that's absolute what? Confusion. Who reads ayats in the book of Allah, openly displaying, it does have a meaning in the back of my mind, but outwardly, I'm entrusting meaning to Allah. Stupidity. That's why Shaykh al-Islam knows exactly what he's talking about. So that's the reason why he said the second method is that they what? Mufawwidin ilmahu ila Allah. Entrusting its knowledge to Allah, meaning the meaning. The tafweed of al-bid'ah is what, everyone? Entrusting the what? The meaning, everything, and the what? Kayfiyah, and the meaning, all of it, it's to Allah. Is that correct? Is it correct or not correct? It's correct. It's correct?
Not correct, that's what they're doing. No, it's not correct. That's not.
Is it correct? Is it not correct?
It's not correct.
Follow me. What's incorrect? What's the tafweed al-bid'ah? What is it? Huh?
It's that they just entrust the meaning to Allah without, giving a literal interpretation of how you understand the verse.
Jayyid. So that's the tafweed al-bid'ah. So that's the second method that Shaykh al-Islam says. Keep reading for me, Muhammad.
And if you are silent concerning it, displaying lack of understanding, then trust this knowledge and its meaning to Allah while negating all evidence that would allude to the attribute, to the establishment of the attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the manifest reality of...
Hold on, just stop there. I'm going to break it down so nobody gets confused. Right, so what does it say? It says, شواذ اللغة ووحشي الألفاظ وغرائب الكلام وتسكت عنه مفوضين علمه إلى الله ما عند في دلالته على شيء من الصفات. Right. So the second method, let's focus on that again. So what do they do, everyone? They entrust the meanings to Allah, right? He says at the same time, what they do is, he says, at the same time, they're negating what it indicates. Meaning of what the characteristic means. He says, in reality, this affair is the opinion of those people who have fell into these mistakes. What is he talking about? Just to sum it up, that is according to what, everyone? The deviant sects from those who fell into these atrocities or these major mistakes. Either they're from the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, who negate everything. And the Asha'ira, what do? They negate some, but they affirm what? Others, or they distort the meanings of some of those characteristics. So that's what Shaykh al-Islam is saying here. He said, based upon which group you want to pick, if it's the Jahmiyyah, they negate everything. If it's the Mu'tazila, they affirm the names, but the indication of the meanings of those characteristics, they remove it. They just say Allah is all hearing without any hearing. Allah sees without any seeing. To the end of the nonsense, right? Then if you go down the ladder to the Asha'ira, some of them they affirm, and some of them they play games. Some of them they actually totally negate, like Allah being above. Some of them they play games by saying, for example, like I just said, fingers. They said, no, we don't affirm the fingers of Allah. It means something Allah will create, and that thing will carry for Allah. So all this type of confusion, Shaykh al-Islam is what? Affirming here and just bringing more details. If you take your time and you read, it's clear. So what Shaykh al-Islam is saying is actually on point. So let's keep going. You guys, I'm focused. I'm trying to finish the book. You got to keep up with me though. Tafadhal. Read the next one.
This is the manifest reality of the insight of these people of rhetoric. And this speech I have seen clearly in its meaning from a group amongst them, and this ideology is imperative upon them, giving them no escape from it, and its meaning and the meaning of it. That the book of Allah does not guide to the knowledge of Allah, His names and His attributes, and that the messenger was incapable in teaching and informing the attributes of the one that sent him, and the people in times of difference should not return their disputes back to Allah, His messenger,
Excellent.
but rather return this.
Excellent. No, I was giving you praise. Excellent.
But rather return their disputes back to the likes of what they were upon in the times of Jahiliyyah,
Allah.
and the judgment of those who don't believe in the prophets, like the Brahmins, the high priest of the Hindus, and the philosophers who were people known to be polytheistic, fire worshippers, and Sabians.
Allah. Shaykh al-Islam knows exactly what he's speaking. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He's on Rahimahullah. He said, well, just like what Muhammad just mentioned, كما تفضل به أخونا الفاضل محمد جزاه الله خيرا. So هذا الكلام قد رأيته صرح بمعناه طائفة منهم وهو لازم لجماعتهم لزوما لا محيد عنه ومضمونه أن كتاب الله لا يهتدى به في معرفة الله وأن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم معزول عن التعليم والإخبار بصفات من أرسله وأن الناس عند التنازع لا يردون ما تنازعوا فيه إلى الله والرسول. This speech, he said, Shaykh al-Islam, he goes on to say, rahimahullah, he said, I've seen that a group from amongst them are very frank with its meaning. He said, what I just said a couple of moments ago, about for the whole half an hour we were just mentioning. This meaning of what? That they either use those methods. So tie the speech in altogether. He's talking about the methods of what? What was the first one? They either use weird speech or odd speech, or odd words, or contextual words. Or what? They entrust all of the meaning to Allah. Entrust the meanings to Allah, or its knowledge to Allah. So let's tie it in together. He said that for a group from amongst them, they're frank in its meaning, of that we just said. And he said, it is binding upon their group. He said, a binding that there's no escape from it. What it contains. Now listen what Shaykh al-Islam is about to say. Because brothers and sisters, what he's about to say here is not only it's not only specific for those who utilize their intellects or their rationality and give precedence to that over revelation. Anyone who uses their emotions, their feelings, their whims, and it's applicable to liberalism, democracy, anything, no matter what it is. All of it is applicable here. He said that if you give precedence to all those matters, and you do not take the book of Allah as a source of guidance, nor the sunnah, the message of Allah, especially in those affairs about our Lord, and His names, and His attributes, and anything that's concerning Him, subhanahu, that you take those affairs as a source of guidance, giving precedence to it. He said, what this contains is what? That the book of Allah is not utilized as a source of guidance. Even though you don't say it. But if you're saying that other affairs are utilized as fundamentals and a source of guidance, and that the book of Allah, if it agrees with what we think is better, if the book of Allah agrees with that, or if the book of Allah agrees with liberalism, or if the book of Allah, the Sunnah, agrees with democracy, or the book of Allah agrees with legislative members in politics or in our houses and all that, if it agrees with that, we take it. So the book of Allah has to agree with these affairs. Right, everyone? He said, if you believe this, and this is your way of thinking, and this is your conviction, and this is what you firmly believe, he said that necessitates that the book of Allah is not used as a way to be guided. It's not the source of guidance. Nor the sunnah message of Allah ﷺ is used as a source of guidance. Rather, the message of Allah was ma'zulun 'an al-ta'lim. Rather, the message of Allah ﷺ is removed from the aspect of what truly teaching the people what was correct, and informing them of what was correct concerning the attributes of Allah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent him to inform what was the truth about Allah. And he said that the people, when they differ, when they differ, he said they do not take their affairs, but what they differ in back to Allah and His Messenger. Where that's the religion. That's a command from Allah. That is the command that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said for us to do when affairs take place of differing amongst the people or amongst themselves. I mean by that the Muslims. He said, بَلْ إِلَى مِثْلِ مَا كَانُوا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. Now listen to this. He said now, using your rationality, using Greek philosophy, using liberalism, using democracy, using all these ways, he said, you now take the book of Allah and the Sunnah message of Allah, reject it, and you returned your affairs back to what the people were upon of Jahiliyyah. Of what the people were upon of Jahiliyyah. And we know Jahiliyyah, brothers and sisters, the society was in a state of chaos before Allah had sent His final prophet and messenger. Society is how we see it is now, all around us. Falling apart, innocent killing, murder of children, women, families, everything falling apart. Jahiliyat. The only affair that brought brought light to society was when the people started to take the book and the sunnah as a source of guidance. That was the only time affairs became what? Rectified. The only time. Other than that, societies were in chaos. When they embraced democracy, liberalism, Greek philosophy, all those type of affairs. When they applied that in society, it fell apart. It was killing of innocent murder of innocent people and bystanders, and people who are weak were taken advantage of, while the people who were rich, they were the ones that were what? They were the ones that were raised high, even if they were evil, corrupt people. That's exactly what we see today. That is the consequences of embracing and taking as a source of guidance and seeking as a source of guidance other than the book of Allah and the sunnah and the message of Allah. Especially in the affairs especially in those affairs that are pertaining to Allah Himself, of the names and attributes. When you brought Greek philosophy in, it also caused chaos. And it caused what? Disruption and confusion in the minds of the Muslims in regards to their Lord. So that's what he's saying. He said, when you take these affairs as source of guidance, أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. حي على الصلاة. حول ولا قوة. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب, exactly what Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah that he mentioned said, وأن الرسول معزول عن التعليم. طيب, he said, this is what you'll find that what these people are mentioning here, especially those who fell into embracing Greek philosophy and been affected by it. He said, what this type of speech contains, he said that the book of Allah is only utilized to recite. It's a book of worship that the person is rewarded for his recitation. That's it. Not the fact that it's taken as a source of guidance. That's what these people were saying here. Still to this day, a lot of the Muslims believe this from the deviant sects, from amongst them. Even though they don't verbalize it, but if you look to their speech when they go vote, let's say we need democracy, we want this. No, that doesn't make sense. Rather, what makes sense is that we have to do this. Rather, in regards to Allah, no, we don't believe that Allah ascends, Allah descends. We don't believe that. Because our rationality can't accept that. So, your rationality, you made that the judge over what Allah has mentioned about Himself. This is what the deviant sects from the Muslims fall into. All these different types of major mistakes. As a result, Allah's anger and wrath descended upon them. This is what's taking place all around the world. Allah's wrath has descended upon the people, not just because of the sins, which is greater than the sins, greater than that, which is deviation in the i'tiqad, which is deviation in the belief, and all types of discrepancies in the belief, which is worse. Because we know, on the day of resurrection, the people's belief will be examined, then their deeds will be examined. The people have to pass the first test. Is that your usul, your foundation of your belief system has to pass on the day of resurrection. Because that's the reason why the people of kufr will not even have any what? They won't have any deeds at all. due to the fact that their fundamental was what? Corrupt. So there's no chance for them on the day of resurrection. And similar to that is the Muslims that fell in the bid'ah due to their discrepancy punished with al-iyadu billah. For that reason we said, based upon that, those affairs we focus on first, because that's the survival of everyone, that their belief and conviction has to be intact, especially in regards to what they believe about Allah and His names and His attributes. That's what we're saying here. So basically, upon the speech of all the deviant sects from the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila and the Asha'ira, he said basically the book of Allah is just something you read. Something you draw close to Allah by its recitation. Not merely, or not in addition to that, you would take it as a source of guidance. Especially in those affairs that's concerning our Lord. Don't take that as a source of guidance. You don't need to do that. Give precedence to your what? Your intellect and your rationality first. That's what they're implying. That's what they're saying. And in addition to what Shaykh al-Islam said here, that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is what? He's ma'zul. Meaning that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ in his authentic sunnah. Because based upon what these people believe, from the deviant sects, from the Muslims, and we know that the majority of the Muslim world carry the creed of the Asha'ira. The creed of the Asha'ira is with the majority of the Muslim world. This is their belief. This is what they what? Bring of those different major mistakes that are in the aspect of the i'tiqad, in the aspect of the conviction of the Muslims. So you'll find that it says that they say about the Messenger of Allah that he was void of truly teaching the people. Even though they don't say it, but this is what they're implying. When you say that we give precedence to our minds over what the Messenger of Allah said. Even though they try to trick the Muslims by saying, no, we affirm what's in the Sunnah as long as it's not ahad. So they bring these type of terminologies. As long as it's not from the affairs of ahad, then we what? Then we'll accept it. Which is not true either. But in order to get the people to accept what they're saying, they'll say, if it's from the aspect of ahad, meaning that it was transmitted from one narrator, from one sahabi, we reject it. If it's reached the level of tawatur, where it was an abundant number of the companions transmitted the narration, we accept it. Is that true also with them? No, it isn't. Even if it's reached the level of tawatur, you'll find that they still fall into rejecting the characteristic. So, basically what the Messenger of Allah in regards to their belief, that the Messenger of Allah, whether it's ahad or whether it's tawatur, they say tawatur, yeah, we say that it's been transmitted authentically. Yes, it's there. All the prerequisites of authenticity of the hadith is there. However, it's dhaniyud dalala, speculative of what it indicates. Confusion upon confusion. These terms that was not known with the Salaf, that they broke down. The categories of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah based upon the acceptance or rejectance of it to these categories that are extremely strange. Only thing that the Ahl Sunnah used to study and look at was what? The transmission of the chain and the narrators. And the text also. Those are the affairs that they used to look and scrutinize to make sure that it's been authentically reported upon the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. They didn't look to the fact that to break it down the category, is it ahad, is it tawatur? All those affairs started from the people who were affected by Greek philosophers. They brought it in, they brought these terminologies. This is where all the confusion broke out from. So, my acceptance of the authentic Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, it has to be tawatur. Even though that's absolute nonsense, also, you'll find that the people of the Asha'ira, that they say tawatur, meaning, this narration of the Messenger of Allah reached the level of tawatur with him. They say what again? It's qat'i'u thubut, dhaniyud dalala. It's affirmed in what has been authentically reported, however speculative of what it indicates. Meaning it's suspect. It's indication of what the narrations of the Messenger of Allah is suspect. It's doubtful. Which is all what? All nonsense. And it's extremely dangerous. And this is the reason why a lot of the Muslims deviated from the correct, and you show the disrespect of a lot of Muslims towards the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't glorify it as it should be glorified. They don't take it as revelation. They take it as something what? Speculative and suspect. If it doesn't agree with my mind, I don't accept it. That's why you'll find from the narrations of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with some of them, if it agreed with their mind, they rejected it. Even though it's authentically reported. Even though all the conditions of authenticity was fulfilled, they still rejected it. The hadith about the fly of the Messenger of Allah, when they had dipped it, that the Messenger of Allah said, dip the other one to remove the sickness, I don't take that. I don't accept that. Take it, just throw it away. The hadith, my rationality doesn't accept it. As a result of it, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu, and those who rejected his authentic sunnah, Allah hastened for them their punishment in this world. Even though they said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still humiliated them out of making mockery of the sunnah and the message of Allah because it didn't agree with your intelligence or your rationality or your intellect or your feelings. Right, everyone? Those are the affairs that have taken place of what we're mentioning here. So that's basically what Shaykh al-Islam is saying here. He's saying that the Messenger of Allah is ma'zul an at-ta'aleem. He was void of truly teaching the people. His sunnah is not accepted with us if it opposes our what? Intellects. He said, Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, he said, فَكَيْفَ يُرُدُّونَ? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obliged that when we differ amongst ourselves to return it back to Allah and His Messenger. Why? Because as a Muslim, you're supposed to take that as a source of guidance. Do you not? Or do you take it back to democracy? Or do you take it back to liberalism? Or do you take it back to politics? Or do you take it back to all those other different affairs and atrocities that has destroyed the whole world? Do you take it back to those affairs? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you differ in anything, meaning, O Muslims, if you truly take Allah and His Messenger and His authentic sunnah as a source of guidance, then you take it back to what Allah and His Messenger say. If not, what happens? Allah humiliated you. Why? Whereas you are differing amongst yourselves to the point where you're disunited. Disunited to a point where Shaykh al-Islam have referred to them as being differing more than the people on the face of the earth. Why? Because they didn't take the sunnah, authentic sunnah, or the book of Allah, the authentic sunnah, message of Allah, as a source of guidance. Rather, you'll find that they accuse the authentic sunnah, as we said, adillatul lafdhiyya dhanniya. You'll find that they say that the sunnah message of Allah is wording speculative evidences. And due to the fact that it carries naskh with takhsis with taqyid. He said, due to the fact that we say speculative, meaning the suspect of those authentic reports of the message of Allah, he said, why we say speculative? Because it could be abrogated, or it could be specified, or it could be restricted. Due to that, we reject it. Even though it's been authentically reported, but due to the fact that all these probabilities are there, we don't accept it. Rather, the only thing that is affirmed is what agrees with our mind. Is that correct? Absolutely not. Is it clear, everyone? But he said, you'll find that they take it back to affairs of Jahiliyyah, that Shaykh al-Islam says. Jahiliyyah. Anything that opposes what the message of Allah brought, of a source of guidance, anything that opposes that is considered Jahiliyyah. Anything. Anything that opposes the authentic sunnah of the message of Allah is considered Jahili. Everything. Your culture, your traditions, your customs, if it opposes what Allah and His Messenger said, is Jahiliyyah. When we say Jahiliyyah, meaning it's a call to the hellfire. Say for what it is. It's a call to the hellfire. If you call to racism, if you call to bigotry, if you call to deeming yourself or superiority or inferiority based upon skin color, background, cultural, land, where you come from, and you think you're superior and someone else is inferior based upon these concepts or ideas, it's a call to the hellfire. It's Jahili. Rather, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam mentions, and what the great Muhammad Aman Jami gives an excellent example of this. He said about this. He said, ليست الجاهلية هنا فترة من الزمن التي كانت قبل مبعث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جاهلية كل قوم ممكن أن تتصور في كل وقت. He said that the affairs of Jahiliyyah is not restricted to a point of time, whereas it was before the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, rather you'll find the Jahiliyyah of every nation. He said it could be there in every time, meaning that they have its traits. And that's what you see before the sending of the Messenger of Allah or the advent of his messengership here in America. Everything that was taking place before the Messenger of Allah was sent is taking place here right now. Everything of people's opinions. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has entitlement issues. Everybody's oppressing their children. Prostitution. Alcohol. Family structure being torn down. Fornication. Homosexuality. Lesbianism. All those affairs was taking place before the Messenger of Allah was sent. Prostitution. Well, now as far as the homosexuality, it was something different. At least back then they had some type of morality from certain aspects of Jahiliyyah. But however, before the advent of his messengership, all the different social ills was taking place. People were killing and murdering, and to the point where some of the narrations said from some of the narrations says, قَتَلُوا فَأَكْثَرُوا. He said that we killed so much and we did it abundantly amongst the tribes because of the fanaticism they have for each tribe. Same here in regards to gangs. And people think that I'm from this street and you're from that street and I'll kill you because of our enmity between each other. The same thing. Even though it changed the title of tribalism, here it's just called gang membership. But the same thing, but the idea is still what? It's still the same. Thinking that you're superior or inferior, or that we now put forth of enmity and hatred based upon these type of concepts. All of those affairs was applicable during the time of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, before the advent of his messengership. Then you'll find that it said, everything of what the people here that Shaykh al-Islam is speaking about, those who are upon the ways of the ulama al-kalam, the people of rhetoric, all of that also is considered what everyone? Jahiliyyah. People who speak to utilize what they call mantiq, logic or philosophy or philosophical terms that the people don't understand when they hear it. And those political terms, even when the people hear it, they don't understand it. They don't know if that politician is mocking you to your face or not because you don't understand the terms they're saying. All those affairs are affairs of Jahiliyyah, binding upon the Muslims to stay far away from. Why? Because it opposes the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu. And if you want to add to that, what they are upon of Sufiya. Sufiya is also Jahiliyyah. A lot of people have to realize that. What the Sufis are upon is also Jahiliyyat. Affairs that agrees with Jahiliyyah. From Jama'at al-Tabligh and the worshiping of graves and saying that Allah is one with the human soul or one with the human body and the human body is one with Allah is affairs of Jahiliyyah. Why we said Sufiya is an incorporation of all different types of ideologies, and it's a melting pot of all different types of ways, such as Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, all rolled up into one. And what was the ultimate result? Sufiya. The origins of Sufiya returns back to paganism, Hinduism, Sikhism, and Hinduism. They gathered all of it together, they put it together, and the Muslims believed it and went down that road of destruction. Those affairs of Sufiya is affairs of what you want to call it, sum it up what it is, Jahiliyyah. All of it is Jahiliyyah, calling the people to the hellfire. Then you'll find that the great Imam, Shaykh al-Islam, that Muhammad Aman Jami that he mentioned it says, he gives an excellent example. He said, what the Sufis are upon is Jahiliyyah. Why? Because it opposes the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. He said, what the people are upon of the legislative members in politics is Jahiliyyah. Why? Because it opposed the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. He said, and like this is Jahiliyyat. وَالْجَاهِلِيَّاتْ مَوْجُودَةٌ وَمُسْتَمِرَّةٌ إِلَى مَا شَاءَ اللَّهِ. He said, and all the affairs of Jahiliyyah is present and it will continue until Allah wills to raise it and take it away. May Allah take it away. He said, for verily the last part we'll mention will stop. He said, وَإِلَى مِثْلِ مَا يَتَحَاكَمُ إِلَيْهِ مَنْ لَا يُؤْمِنْ بِالْأَنْبِيَاءِ كَالْبَرَاهِمَةِ وَالْفَلَاسِفَةِ. He says, you'll find that the people, what they take back to what they want to take as a judge in their affairs, what they're taking, the type of people they're taking, or the type of affairs they're taking it back to, he says, are people who don't believe in the prophets. They don't believe in the prophets. He says, such as the Barahima. The Barahima and the Falasifa.
Let's take Melrose Avenue, Philadelphia.
He said the aqidah of the belief of this people of speech. He said that you'll find that they also have been affected not only by Greek philosophy, they've been affected by Hinduism, by the Hunud, the people of India, who are what? The Hindus. They've been affected also by the philosophers, Greek philosophy and the Romans. He said these are their professors. This is their belief, just as you heard. And we talked about how their chain goes back to the Jews. As the Jew, whose name was Labid ibn al-A'sam, who did magic upon the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's the origin of the belief that Allah is not above the throne. It originated from those people who their chain goes back to this individual, who was a Jew, and he did magic upon the Messenger of Allah until he brought about a people who now spread it amongst the Muslims that Allah is not above the throne. That's where it emanated from. That's where it started from. So, all of this is just to sum up what Shaykh al-Islam is saying to this last part, everyone, that all these type of beliefs is not Islamic in its origin. It's all pagans and people of disbelief in its origins. Why would the Muslims take it as a source of guidance? Why? If you was to study these matters and where they stem from and where they originated from, it's all foreign. Meaning when we say foreign, meaning that had no connection with the religion at all. Nothing Allah revealed, nothing the Messenger of Allah brought as a source of guidance. Then why take it as a source of guidance then? And I ask people this, and they say, Abdur Razzaq, why don't you join in politics? Why don't you vote? For what? What has it done to the people? Look around you. Things that is worse than it's ever been. What has voting done for anything? I've been saying this for over a decade, and the ulama have been saying it for hundreds of years now. Look to all around us right now. What has politics done to our society? What has it brought of good? What? Give me one. What has it done? Things is worse than it's ever been. Chaotic than it's ever been. How many people do we keep hearing getting shot from little children, innocent children, 8 years old? I heard now, last year, a little baby got shot. Bullet came into an infant baby. In the car, someone shooting. Just last week, a little girl got shot in her shoulder. Little girl, and was in the car with her father. 2 idiots who was arguing in the middle of the road rage. All they were doing was just going around minding their business. To leave off, they driving down the street. They're going down the street. The girl turns around and said, Dad, I feel a warm sensation in my arm. The father knew right away it was a bullet. This is what these societies brew. This is the type of behavior it breeds. Savagery. Arrogance. No care for life. Any society that makes the oppression of the poor by flooding their neighborhoods with drugs and alcohol and not teaching them the correct way of how to eat and teaching them a fear of their Lord, that is not a fit society to bring about peace and morality within the land. Any people that you're removing from them, that the existence of Allah, which is the ultimate form of corruption for a human mind. Then on top of that, you stuff it with drugs, alcohol, and arrogance to the end of it. And then you put satanic voice of shaitan with music to add on to it while they sit in drugs and alcohol and they flood it in the neighborhood with a bunch of guns. That's what democracy calls to, and that's what the society you see of what we're living in. This is what these affairs call to. This is what you see around you. This is the results of it. Why in the world would you want to be involved in the affairs of politics? Why? You will find an aversion and want to throw up that would sit in the house with these people that lie all day long in order to attain an agenda because they have an agenda behind it. And you know they have an agenda. And you know politicians, as soon as it comes to your mind, politician, liar. That's the first thing I look when I see a politician. Kadhab. Nothing else comes to my mind when I look at a politician. When I hear a politician, liar. Lying for an agenda. That's all I think about. Why in the world you would want to be involved in it? When you see innocent children being murdered every day in front of your face to show you the results of this nonsense. But these are the matters that you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning here. He said there are people that don't believe in the prophets. They don't believe that the prophets will be taken as a source of guidance. Like the Barahima and the people of Greek philosophy, meaning all these affairs are foreign. They have no attachment with proper guidance. He said even though that some of them try to dress it up with the clothes or the garment of Islam, even though they say it, in order for it to be accepted by the common folk from the Muslims. But however, if you was to truly ponder on it and study it, you'll find it's in total opposition to what Allah and His Messenger has said, unto Allah what He sent down as a form of guidance and what the Messenger of Allah brought as a source of guidance. Let's read the next part and then we'll stop. Can you read it for me? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? I don't know what, like I said, when people, Muslims, see that none of these politics have done nothing for all these years, things is worse than it's ever been. How in the world do you keep voting? Why? For what? What has it done? You vote for another liar? Vote for another liar, and then vote for another liar who has an agenda? When are you going to keep bumping your head into when you're going to figure it out that these affairs don't work? Anything that goes against the guidance of Allah and His Messenger will fall apart, inevitably. It's just a matter of time. And that's what you see right now is going on. That's what you see right now. Follow. I'm sorry.
And verily, this point of reference, their corrupt minds, did not increase that fear nothing but severity, and did not remove the different. The cause of this is that every group from among them has a tawagi that yearns that they should be the judge in this affair between them, whilst they were ordered by Allah to disbelieve and reject them.
Look, Shaykh al-Islam is talking about tawagheet now. So he's talking about how Greek philosophy is a what? It's a taghut. The belief of making your mind, putting forth your rationality over the revelation of Allah and His Messenger is a what? It's a taghut. It's considered a what? False deity. Allah Akbar. Also, democracy is also what? It's a taghut. Liberalism is also what? Taghut. We could go on and on, right? Nation of Islam, believing Father Muhammad is a law. Is also a what? Taghut. He's one of the biggest of tawagheet. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Right, everyone? So the false deity is not just an idol worship. All these affairs that we just mentioned is based upon what Ibn al-Qayyim said of what's considered a taghut. All is applicable to what we gave as examples. A sorcerer or a magician is also what, everyone? It's also a taghut. A person that reads your palm is also what? Taghut. Person that practices magic, that they say put forth a long sharp thing in their face and they pull it out and it seems as if nothing happened, is a what? It's a taghut. All these of people are tawagheet. That is what Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning here. That the people take their affairs to these type of people. This is where we'll stop. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll stop here. Any questions about the lesson? Follow.
When you was mentioning about how the people they were the first one to come up with the idea of mutawatir and ahad.
Mm-hmm.
Then why did the people of the Sunnah, service this type of science and actually clarify it more? Like
you just answered your own question. You gave a question and you answered it in the same context. The reason why the people of Balta came with these terms of ahad and tawatur to cause confusion. They was trying to incorporate philosophy into the religion. But the Muslims, a lot of it, these type of terms came, as Shaykh al-Islam put in his books. They said that the origin of the incorporation of Greek philosophy became adopted by the Khilafah of Bani Abbas during the Khulafa of the Abbasiyin, who are Al-Ma'mun, Wal-Mu'tasim, Wal-Wathiq. When they took their advisors of those who've been affected by Greek philosophy, that's when they started incorporating these type of terms and this type of beliefs. He said, even Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah said to this day, the Muslims were affected by them adopting it, which stemmed from that time. To this day, they were affected. Due to the fact that how many Muslims out there you'll find, if you go to certain countries, they don't believe Allah is above. A lot of them, millions. They don't believe Allah is above the throne, they don't believe Allah is above the heavens, and they have a lot of doubts concerning Allah's names and attributes. He said that stemmed from them. Or it goes back to that time where it reached the level of where the ruler was affected, where the ruler made it an affair that was now mandated upon the people. And if they didn't believe it, they were tortured or killed. So it reached the level of rulership. That's when it became a major effect upon the Muslims. Because now when you have a ruler pushing it and killing people as a result of them rejecting it, that's when it becomes a major problem. But at any rate, to make a long story short, they brought it and incorporated it within the people, and they made it applicable to the people. They made it binding upon the people to believe, right? Then, when they started bringing these terminologies of ahad, tawatur, and all these other matters, those in order to so-called, let's merge all these terminologies along with revelation, this is what you got. So in order to, now, they brought usul and principles that basically are in in opposition to the sunnah, the book of Allah, the sunnah, the message of Allah, sallallahu Ahlul Sunnah came behind and said, okay, these terms are foreign. We don't believe it, but however, we now have to service it in order for the people who've been affected to understand properly. So that's the reason why you'll find that the people, the Sunnah, start discussing these categories in order to clarify what's the truth from it and reject what's the falsehood from it. That's it. So you'll find that Ahlul Sunnah say, for example, we believe that what was authentically reported from the message of Allah, doesn't matter whether it's ahad or tawatur. That's not our shet. That's not our affair. We don't never look to say, oh, that's been reported by one sahabi or two sahabi, so that means it's suspect. That was never the affair of none of the salaf, none from the companions of the message of Allah, nor those who followed them with perfection, nor the first three generations that the message of Allah praised. You'll never find them say, oh, Abu Hurairah only said it, khalas, don't reject it. You'll never find them saying that. Oh, Abu Hurairah said it, just one sahabi said it, oh, we're not taking it. Was that that was their affair? No, it wasn't their affair. So that's the reason why they clarified it to say that it doesn't matter whether it's ahad or tawatur. Our affair is to look at the science of hadith, of all the prerequisites and the conditions of the authenticity of the hadith is fulfilled. That's what we look at. We looked at the narrators, of the reliability of them, and the precision of them, and the other affairs of the science was applicable to what we use to show whether or not it's been affirmed or authentically reported or transmitted from the message of Allah. That's it. But the only reason why you'll find that the ulama mentioned those categories was for clarification. You'll find in their books. Ahad, tawatur, is not from our affair. Even though the ulama speak about it in order to what? Clarify the truth from it. Meaning, oh people, the sunnah, doesn't matter what's ahad or what? Tawatur, if it's been authentically reported, accept it. Also, in addition to that, the message of Allah sallallahu, when we say it's reached tawatur, we don't say it's qat'i'u thubut, dhanniyat al-dalala. He said rather we say qat'i'u thubut wa qat'i'u dalala. We say that it's reached the level of tawatur, meaning that it's been absolutely affirmed in its authenticity, and it's absolutely affirmed by what it indicates. So would they do it only for, just like you said in your question where you answered it, for clarification purposes only? That's the only reason why Ahlul Sunnah bring that in their books. Because the origin of it is that people of misguidance introduced it to the religion until millions of Muslims became misguided by it. So it forced the people of the Sunnah to come in and what? Service it. And mention it in their books to what? Clarify the truth from it and nullify the falsehood from it. That's it. Is it clear? Anything else, anyone? Is it clear? Anything else? Any questions? Any other questions? طيب وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك